Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year. Welcome back to the Rugby Paper Podcast. We've obviously got an entire year of rugby and podcasting to look forward to. Joining myself, Brendan, and Chris today to kick the year off, to discuss the time he spent all over the world, the modern-day winger, and, of course, the Lions tour. Former Australia, Waratahs, Northampton, and now Narbonne winger, Taqele Naiyaravoro. Another year. Happy New Year, everyone. Another year of rugby, another year of podcasting to look ahead to. It is a Lions year. We are a month away from the Guinness Six Nations starting. And after a few compelling rounds in the Gallagher Premiership since we last spoke, things feel quite exciting, really. I'm excited. I'm sure Brendan and Chris are excited, despite what their facial expressions may currently
very excited.
And today we welcome someone who spent time in England, Scotland, Japan, of course, Australia, and now France. He's been all over. Taqele Naiyaravoro of Australia, the Waratahs, and of course Northampton Saints. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. I mean, how's life treating you? How's your French as well?
Oh, far from it, mate. It's pretty much like my Japanese, mate. Just good enough to order coffee.
Don't take the bait, Taqele. On his graduate honours in French or something, so he's just aching for an opportunity to show off.
Don't worry, the listeners know. The listeners know, and she was very kind.
I'm just a yes and no and turn away, mate. That's just me.
Talk about how Narbonne came about, because they're owned by Bob Dwyer and Rocky Elsom, aren't they?
Yeah, the same club they used to be.
Okay.
I think there's a current investigation about it. Can't really speak anything onwards about that, but yeah, I think it's under new management, I think now, and yes, I mean it's a good place, Narbonne, south of France, good weather, maybe better than England. Sorry to say, but no, I'm actually enjoying it. Boys are really good. Welcome me in and the coaching staff, and it's good. It's a good little spot.
It's a famous old name, Narbonne, isn't it? Does it still feel like quite a big club?
It is. It quite surprisingly, at least for me, when I came and played my first home game here in the second round of the season last year, and mate, I was like, wow, it's like I feel like I'm in top 14. The crowd here is pretty crazy, and it's good to see in that level because we're in National One, the third division here. So mate, it's pretty good, to be honest.
It was the club of Didier Caucaunibuca, I think, which may not mean much to you, Taqele, but he was one of the great centres ever. He was about three stones in weight, and he could.
Who was this? Sorry,
Didier Caucaunibuca, who played for France in the 80s, in the great sort of sides of Jean-Pierre Rive and Blanco and all those guys. I mean, it's another age, but he's one of the great passes of the ball I've ever seen. Tell me this. You're in the third tier. It's a big club. Historically, you're in the third tier. How competitive are you finding the rugby at that level?
Mate, it's surprisingly competitive. I didn't think it would be, this tough in the sense of the training wise, the physique. It's pretty much as close as what you get in top 14, to be honest. And at this level and the pace, the team that Narbonne have now, and like there's a lot of young boys, and quite honestly, it's hard for me to try and keep up with these young wingers. But yeah, it is very competitive. We are a good team. We're coming second at the moment in the table, but to start off our second half now of the season, and I mean surprisingly, it is quite competitive. Coming in, didn't really expect it.
And when
is it fully professional?
When you look above you in the chat into Pro D2, there are some. I mean, that's not even the top 14. Obviously, there are some enormous clubs in that league. I mean, really. I mean, there are teams that have been in Champions Cup finals and this, that, and everything else. Title-winning sides, extraordinary quality.
Yeah,
that's going right the way down through French rugby.
It is. That's one thing you mentioned about history here, and that's one thing I actually got to learn about it quite later on, a couple of weeks when I was here, learning about the history of the club and how many French players that came through the 80s and the 90s that are actually from Narbonne. And yeah, it's quite amazing to learn that and be amongst this town, and the support here is just amazing, man. The home crowd here is quite unreal.
Is there still that sort of ambition in a club? Obviously, I mean, Narbonne they're in the top 14. So they won the top 14, I think, back in the 70s or 80s. Is there still an ambition, or potentially even if it's just a distant dream, to be able to sort of return to heights resembling those?
Yeah. I mean, one thing we spoke about before I came over with the coaches, and I think they just fell short of winning their qualification into Pro D2 last season. They were at the top of the league here, and then they just missed out on the relegation game to go up into Pro D2, and I think it was just by a point or something. But yeah, they have a goal of reaching the Pro D2 this year, and that's one thing I came and offered my services into trying to help this club get there. And they have a dream of going back into the Pro D2. I think they were there before as well. Quite a lot of their years in the Pro D2. It's something we're working on against. Just taking step by step. But I think Pro D2 is the actual main goal right now. And it's looking good. Hopefully the season will go on if we keep playing at the same pace, same style.
And say that does have to. Sorry, go on, Chewy.
I was going to say, do you think it's a big debate here in England, as you will know, promotion and relegation? It's not here at the it's not here at the moment. You can't get relegated from the Premiership at the moment. We look across the water to France, and it's got a football style, what we call the pyramid structure, where everyone's fighting to get up, everyone's scrapping like hell not to go down. Does it give you a different feel, a different sort of atmosphere around rugby when that kind of jeopardy is in place?
I think it does. Comparing from because it's the first time I've actually been play in France, and to have coming from Super Rugby where you don't have the relegation, and coming from Premiership where I think they used to have it or something like that. Like if I'm mistaken, but yeah, with that feeling of knowing that you're not going to be relegated after the season, it kind of gives you a bit of like, it's all right. We'll try again next year. But I think from here is, relegation keeps you on the edge, keeps you fighting. It keeps I mean, that's the reason why it gets so competitive. I mean, because if you don't do well this season, you're going to be in the bottom, so you're going to go drop it down a level. But I think the easiest thing is, the hardest thing for me, I think, is staying there. The easiest thing is to get there, but it's just probably it's as hard to remain in it. I think for me is, but yeah, it creates a huge competition, and it's a big difference as well, I think.
On a personal level, I know your body's been through quite a lot by this point. You obviously had, back when you were at Northampton, your last two seasons, you had a knee issue in your last season in particular that was particularly bad. Say promotion does happen this year, do you see yourself picking it out up in Pro D2 as well, where obviously the standard is as high as it's ever been in that league?
That's for me, with how my body is, like you said, I'm just taking it year by year at the moment, and I think this is probably the most game I've played in a club since after my knee injury. After Northampton I signed with Japan NEC, and I think I only got to play about 4 games, still with a knee, and then went to Western Force, played club game, still not really quite there yet. But coming here was kind of like a last. Let's just see how this goes. But at the moment, they're really good with managing my body here, and they're good with managing. We've got quite a few older boys here. But for me personally, I think this year will probably be, I see how it is kind of thing. And if they actually go up to Pro D2, I think it's a good opportunity again to try and keep going. But it's reaching that point for me. But I'm taking day by day, man. At training, I'm taking it week by week, game by game, just trying to get through and just trying to enjoy myself. To be honest, it's coming in this season here.
Slightly personal question: what's the body weight saying at the moment? Because if you're still sort of kicking 130 kilos, that's a lot for the knee to be carrying.
Yeah, it is. To be honest, guys, I'm not ashamed anymore of saying it. But when I first came here, I was 152. When I first came, so I had after Super Rugby, we had 3 weeks off, and not playing a Super game last season, I was kind of no, I don't think I'm good enough to play anymore, so I kind of stopped bothering. But then these guys came up and said, we'll we'll try and give you a go, and kind of got me back on the horse. So I'm around 129, 130 now.
Yeah.
Must have been a bloody big horse.
Mate, the horses are running free in Perth, mate. You know, it's like a buffet there.
152. Holy, is that
Yeah.
that's a career high? I'd imagine.
Yeah. That's probably the heaviest I've ever been, man. But it was just me. I think I just let myself go after Super Rugby, and
Right.
after being in that situation, well, not getting a Super Rugby game, and kind of just caught me, and yeah. But no, it's good. I'm enjoying it. Like, yeah. Besides, my family is back in Perth. I'm just here by myself, so it's kind of, a bit hard. But you know, it's a job I need to do, and like, I'm doing my best here. So hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, phenomenal. Well, obviously, fingers crossed that you can keep going and you do get that promotion. It's not as available on TV. We'd love to be sort of seeing what you're still doing. I was just watching highlight videos this week, obviously, before you came on, and that video of you clashing with Billy Vanapola, I'm sure you remember it well.
Yeah. Man, I still feel it in my ribs, mate.
What did you say?
I still feel it in my ribs.
Imagine how he feels then.
Yeah, why don't you pick on someone your own size?
Hey, to be honest, after that, people's been giving me videos, and I'm like, cause I just came from Super that year, and it's not really, I didn't really know. I knew about England rugby and stuff, but I didn't really know it was him. So I was just doing my job, and after that, I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know that it was him." So.
Tell us about some of the characters you met at Northampton, because I mean, always a strong club, and playing great rugby at the moment. How did you? What was the sort of game plan they had back when you were playing? Were they quite so attacking? I don't remember them being quite like they are now.
Yeah, well, when I was there, we kind of put me up as honestly the first ball runner, first crasher, and trying to get some meters up the first phase. It was good. I enjoyed it. I mean, it is what I do, and it's the body type that I have, and kind of like what I do best, and I kind of enjoyed it. They had that going for the first 2 years, and kind of different players came in, a lot of younger boys. So they kind of found a way around it. So, I mean, for me, like it's, I enjoyed Northampton. Like, there's 4 seasons that I had there was amazing, man. Like, I call Northampton home now because my youngest daughter was born there. So, yeah. So I put North in her middle name, so kind of a remembrance of Northampton.
That's nice.
Is that right? That's so nice. Wow. Oh, the club.
Your time there pretty much coincided almost completely with Chris Boyd, didn't it?
Yeah,
I think, and I guess it's true to say that the seeds of how Northampton are playing the game now were probably sown a little bit by Boyd. People like Sam Vesty and what have you have taken it on a level, and actually the sort of nature of the game around the Premiership has changed quite a bit, partly because of no relegation, probably, where everyone feels that they can play with a bit more freedom and a little bit more adventure, without so much fear for those in the bottom half of the table. But Chris Boyd has kind of become a bit of an icon, really, around coaching circles. How did you find him? Because from the outside, it seemed as though he was a real thinker about the game.
He was. I actually enjoyed having him as a coach. Like you said, he's got a massive and a good rugby brain on him. I think obviously when he first came, he had a plan, about a 6 or 5 year plan about Northampton moving up and going forward. So I think that went into fruition of where they had won the Prem. And later in the first 2 years, I think when I was there, was focus of running free rugby, just pretty much and most of it was just playing, how you see what's in front. And it's going out and just enjoying the game, to be honest. He didn't really mind the game plan and stuff. He's just playing what's in front of you. You have the game plan as kind of your guide and your map, but things change in front of you. We say just do what you need to do and do what you want and do what you think is best. That's why I kind of enjoyed having him as a coach. And he's quite a funny guy. Even no matter how cold it is, he still wears a thongs around. He was telling him, like, mate, put some shoes on. He's just walking around with thongs. But no, I think he actually had the plan along. I think if I'm trying to assume that, I think he had a plan of about a 5-year plan or 6-year plan for Northampton.
Yeah.
And when you came in, obviously the Gallagher Premiership, or the Premiership as we knew it back then, was not necessarily used to wingers like you. And I remember the buzz every time you got the ball at Franklin's Gardens, certainly well, throughout really, but particularly the first few games, because obviously 130 kilo wingers, we just don't see that in the UK. Is that something you felt as well, just going into training camp? You felt like quite a unique weapon that and you beat 100 defenders in your first season, which no one had ever done before.
I knew I had that, but it's something I never really never let it kind of. I didn't really think much about it, if you know what I mean. I knew that was the case, but I didn't really let it stick to my head as much. I just knew that as soon as I get the ball, I want to try and finish it. It's my job, and whoever comes in front of me, I'm not going down after the first tackle. I'll try and always get 2 or 3 people. And that was my goal every game going in. And honestly, whenever I get the ball, I can hear people start screaming and start shouting. And that was kind of a big boost for me to try and go out there and, and make their screaming worth it. But yeah, that was kind of something that I knew I had, but I didn't really let it, sink in my head for that long. So it's because it is, God-gifted ability for me, and I take it in, I accept it, and I just do my thing.
Well, you certainly did. I think it was it 15 tries you got for Northampton in the end, and some of them were very incredibly highlight reel worthy. One against the Scarlets, wasn't it? Or was that with Glasgow?
Oh, that was Glasgow, I think. Yeah.
Glasgow, fine. I'm getting my clubs mixed up, but
Man, it's coincidence. I think the boys just put up a photo of me on the meeting room on that game. I was like, wait, were you on it? Were you on that, Frank? Did you tell them to do it? And it was that exact game against Scarlets.
So having gone through the sort of physicality of the Premiership, where and it was an extremely physical competition at that time, how did you find Japan?
Japan was, I think it was a bit lighter white, lighter in terms of contact wise, wasn't really heavy hitters. There was a few teams which had proper international players that played on that team, like Quagga Smith, and all those guys. That they are the ones they were out to get me, and they're the ones I can actually feel them tackling.
He's got to be the most annoying bloke in world rugby.
Oh man, he's like a brother to me. I did a few barbers too with him, and he's just crazy. He's an amazing guy. But yeah, no, it's quite terms like that. As you know, you can feel hits from players, and they know that's a foreigner. That's not a Japanese guy.
You can just tell it with your eyes shut. You mean?
Yeah, I can just tell it when I'm going down. When I'm going down, placing the ball, I'm like, yeah, I think that's a foreigner. But to be honest, my first game when I went to Panasonic in 2016, my first carry of the line out, all I remember was catching the ball and looking forward, and I'm already upside down. Where this Japanese guy, they just went for my shoelace. The first time I've ever been done that, someone ever done it to me, and literally both my legs up in the air. I'm like, what the hell? What have I got myself into here?
It's interesting that, because I remember when Jonah Lomu was in his pomp, and he always seemed to pick on England. More than anyone. I mean, he just used to score tries against England for fun. Yeah. And the only England player he never ran either round or through or over was Matt Perry, the fullback. And I remember speaking to Matt Perry about it, and he said, "It's shoelaces, isn't it? It's bootlaces." He said, "That's all you get." He said, "What is the point of going high on Jonah Lomu? You will finish. You might even finish second. You'll finish ninth or whatever it is." He said, "It's a mouthful of boot, and you just put up with it." He said, "But that's the only way you can do it."
I mean, to be honest, I got up from that rock and I was like, "What the hell am I doing here?" And I'm looking around, I'm like, and it's just about 2 minutes into the game, my first line out. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, well, you
I
go
mean,
with a big reputation.
Peter Stringer would say the same thing, wouldn't he? Because he Jonah didn't get past him very much either.
Well, I don't know. I mean, whenever the All Blacks played England in Lomu's time, it was just a
Yeah, most of Lomu's highlights was just from the England tries.
Yeah.
He didn't score a single try against the box, mind.
No, never scored.
And used to tackle him around the ankles for one.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is definitely the way to do it, or was the way to do it.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, you do wonder, and obviously, I mean, Taqele, you've obviously had a decade-long career by this point. Do you think we're in a different era for wingers now than we were sort of 10 years ago? I mean, the most revolutionary winger in the past decade for me, and probably for this podcast, I think, is Cheslin Kolbe. I think he changed the landscape whereby, we're sort of in the era of the speedsters. Kolbe is one, Will Jordan is another. Louis Samet before he went to, Damien Penaud, Louis Biel, BRE, etc. Do you think that is much more the case now than it was when you started?
I definitely think that's the case. I definitely think just seeing how wingers are coming out these days, and like you said, they're much more quicker, they're much more agile around the playing field. They come, if you're not getting any balls, they're coming in besides the ruck behind 10 on the other side, and then they run back. It's what you expect in a winger, to be honest. Now, and with the pace that's actually, growing up now, and to be honest, it's what you need. And I think for a winger, you need to kick as well. You need to have that bit of a rugby brain as well. I think it is definitely the case. Unless if you're a big winger and you can do all of it, like, you're going to go hard. Or unless if you're really, really good. And like Caleb Clark, I think for me, as a winger of his size, is probably one of our last big wingers that's still out there and doing a job. But I think it's definitely the case. Wingers nowadays is more speed, more tactical kind of game, and I'm all for it. To be honest, I'm nothing against it.
Yeah, because I suppose just off the top of my head, when you sort of burst onto the scene, that was the era of sort of yourself. Nemani Nadolo was obviously tearing up for Fiji. Julian Surveyor was, right in his prime for the All Blacks. Do you think it's a case of the game evolving and becoming a little bit less one-dimensional, and that it's not just a case of big meets bigger?
I think it is too. It is definitely is how the game is growing. How I think everything's evolving around sports, and how much better you can be if you're a bit lighter, and how much better you can move around. And it's just not for wingers. I think it grows into all different positions as well. You see props now are more skilled. They need to be more skillful and need to throw a pass and all this kind of stuff. Where before, back in the day, just need props to just do hit-ups and scrums. I think that's pretty much what they used to do. But I think it just all just goes through the rugby position. As you need to be fit a bit more than what you guys used to, what the past decade was. And it definitely is. I mean, the more it grows, the more more stuff you got to do. And fair enough.
It's the unpredictability of the wing position now, which has come on a stack. You're absolutely right. I mean, Kolbe, I think, is one of the great, if not the best, Springbok wing I've ever seen. I mean, and people talk about Habana, and Habana was fantastic, but Kolbe still got a little bit left in the tank.
Yeah.
He's, sensational. But the guy who I think at his best really confuses defenses and is unpickable, almost unplayable at times, is Penaud, who does different things to any winger sort of ever seen, because he doesn't appear to be running very quickly. He's like the world's fastest slow motion runner, isn't he?
Penaud, the French winger.
Penaud,
yeah. Hey, it's crazy. Every time I watch the French game, he's always scoring a try.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've never seen this guy not score a try.
Yeah.
It's like it's probably second half, and like, he's not going to score a try this game. I can finally see. And then after he just scores the try, I'm like, fuck off, man. This guy is just, to be honest, he's very decisive. Like, seeing you play, and you're like, he's not going to do anything. Then he just goes, oh, damn. It's you're actually absolutely correct there.
Well, another wing I used to love watching him, and what Warren Gatlin said, he was the most talented player he'd ever coached, was Sivivatu.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Something different. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
I mean,
skills.
Taqele, who was your, well, not necessarily who, what was your least favorite type of winger to defend against? Being, obviously the Route 1 type winger.
Kolbe,
Yeah.
definitely smallest ones.
Yeah.
Man, they have those Japanese wingers where you're like, oh my god, how am I gonna go low on this guy? Like, like this.
You dislocate your whole body, wouldn't you? Trying to go low on one of those Japanese wingers.
I'm knocking myself out just by going down. Yeah, there was this. I think we was in Japan, and we were getting ready to receive a kickoff, and I saw my winger in front of me, the one I'm marking, and I'm like, leaning to my head, I'm like, what the hell? Like, how am I gonna get low?
Imagine what he was thinking.
Mate, it's just like I would much rather defend someone that's same size as me, or like just a bit taller, and it makes it a bit easier to tackle.
Yeah.
And defending, guys like that are small is just quite hard, man. I can't, and especially with this new rule with the shoulder height and stuff. It's, mate,
difficult to do it legally, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, do you think
a guy built on your dimensions, so a big wing? Are you always going to be slightly easier to step? Are you more vulnerable to a stepping wing than if you were a whole lot smaller?
I think, yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that. You're always going to have that turn that's going to be a bit slower than the other wing, especially with them running at pace. Yeah. And and if you're already on an angle, kind of makes it a bit more kind of an advantage for you. But if you're staying there flat and he turns and goes, I think you're done. Yeah. I think that's quite a disadvantage. It's one of the disadvantages, I think, for us. Especially when we played Nandolo, I think most teams, I think, is just kick behind him and kick behind me as well, just to try and get me to, because they know we're pretty slow on turning. That was pretty much some of the game plans that we had to try and play against.
Yeah. Am I right in saying, and a little segue, your father, I think, and Josua Tuisova's mother are from the same area in Fiji? Am I right?
Yeah.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah. So we are the kind of distant cousins.
Are you?
Yeah.
You and Tuisova are? Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
But my real cousin. Oh yeah. No, sorry, it's the same one. Yeah. I actually got to know that, I think, just a couple of years back, to be honest, as soon as he started bursting into the scenes, because I only heard about it when in 2015, the World Cup, when Matt Gito came from Toulon and Tuisova was still an academy player at that time. And Matt Gito was telling me, he's like, mate, we got this Fijian guy that came from, obviously, Fiji. His name is Tuisova. You heard of him? I was like, nah. He came from the Sevens, man. He's just, mate, that guy's like, he eats metal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, man. He's just chiseled. And I'm like, oh, man, I never heard of him. And then next year, he just burst out the scene. I was like, oh, him.
With the one with the carbs.
Yeah. Oh, this guy. Yeah. Later on, found out that we are distant relative, and it's quite cool. I didn't know that. I actually went to his house before I went to my break in Christmas. We played a team in Paris and got to go to his house. Shared a cover bowl, with him, and got to know each other a bit more.
Oh, amazing.
Is Caucaunibuca still regarded with great with great admiration in Fiji? I mean, he was a hell of a player. He was. when he was tuned in, which wasn't always, I think it's fair to say. But crikey, I mean, he was just jaw dropping.
Yeah, he is. He's still probably in the top two of my rugby idol I've ever, rugby idol I look up to, and as a winger, and at his size as well. And he was a bit bigger than, me, for example, and he moved like he was like Cheslin Kolbe, which is amazing, and the skill that he had. No, it's just a gift. I don't think you'll ever see a winger come up now than what he had, the ability that he had. And I think on his interview before, most of the Fijians ask him like, how do you do it? And he said basically as soon as he gets the ball, everything just slows up in front of him. Like
For
everything
2 or
just
3
slows
years,
up.
he was untouchable, wasn't he? When he was at the
Yeah.
Blues for a couple of seasons.
Yeah.
2003 World Cup, although unfortunately he only played 2 matches because he copped that ban. But I mean, if only he could have played in the other matches, Fiji could have done very well in that tournament.
Yeah.
What a player!
Can you imagine if his life had taken a different course and he'd ended up playing for the All Blacks? Can you imagine what he would have achieved in that kind of organised, very, very, delivery conscious and an outstanding team as well? I mean, people talk about Jonah, and crikey, Jonah was a heck of a player, but think about stuff that Jonah.
Yeah,
he had stuff that Jonah didn't quite have,
It's just how he moves. Like when he changed direction, what I noticed of what those ability was when he changed direction, the pace doesn't change for him.
Yeah.
He's just running at the same pace, and just his body just kind of glides into gaps, and it's just, you never see that. So I don't think you'll ever see a winger like that as a Fijian, from a Fijian saying. I don't think you'll ever see a Fijian player that's going to be as close as what Lothar was.
Yeah,
I think.
Did I read somewhere he's got a son who's very promising as well?
I was about to say, his son is playing in Fiji right now, and I think when I was there a couple of years ago, I got to watch one of his games, and I was like, "Wow, that kid's good." Man, he was pretty much just like how he would just like glide through gaps like effortless. And then later on, I found out that it was Lothar's son, and I'm like, "Oh, no wonder." Yeah.
So look out for the name again. Wouldn't it be great if he could do it?
I remember him playing when he was at Agen, and he played in like a Challenge Cup match, or I don't think it was it was a Heineken Cup match or a Challenge Cup match at Gloucester, at Kingsholm, and he looked like he'd swallowed a sofa. He was miles out. He was miles out of shape. And they played him in the centre. And I've never seen anyone look less interested in a game of rugby in all my life. And he seemed to me to be sort of actively avoiding any direct participation in the game at all. He didn't want the ball. He wasn't cutting a line. He wasn't really making himself available for anything. But on the occasions the ball did completely by accident end up in his hands, he scored a try. It's ridiculous. It was extraordinary because once he just started moving with the ball, everything fell away, and it's amazing.
I would love to see if I wish he had someone to mentor him around his rugby career. He had a good management team around him to just kind of just guide him around. Like he's obviously his money and stuff. He had a series made for him in the Pacific Illustration. Just so. Dan Leo, the Samoan international. He did a series of Pacific Illustration where he went out and got to speak to Thao, and how he kind of went through his rugby career and stuff. And that's what he said. He said he wished he had a mentor that would have guided him around when he was in France, and tell him about life after rugby and how he's to ensure his finance and stuff, because he was getting heaps of money when he was playing, but he was just blowing them out like nothing, because obviously coming from his village, and his village is in the interior, man. It's like 4 hours in the middle of Fiji, and he would go to Fiji for holiday and then didn't come back, so the club coaches had to fly to Fiji to get him back.
he put quite a lot of money into that village, didn't he?
He built a school, didn't he? Built a school for them.
Built a school. He's still getting, he's still gonna get the recognition of being, one of Fiji's best wingers that they've ever produced. And I hopefully, his son can have a bright future in the game, and hopefully there's someone there to look after him.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Was it ever legitimately on the table for you to, I can't remember the timing of the residency rules changing and things like that, but for you to potentially wear the Fijian jersey, was that ever actually on the table, or was it just a possibility?
It was on, the first thing it came out was 2015, before on that year, the World Cup year. I got a call from McKee. John McKee at the time was coaching Fiji, and we had a meeting, and I said, I'm keen to play for Fiji. And I just made the switch from league from 2014 and 15, and I wasn't really, I was still new to the union how it works and everything. So anyway, I was waiting for him to arrive in Sydney to have a meeting with him, and then probably 2 days after we spoke just by email, setting up the meeting, then Wallabies called and offered me a position with them, and kind of congrats me and said that I made the training squad, and I was like, fuck man, like I obviously went to them and said no, like I emailed him, I said this, I've got this from Australia, I haven't agreed yet, but if there's still a possibility of Fiji, I would still jump on it. And they never got back to me after 48 hours, and I think that was a sign for me, so I just took it. I took the Wallabies, and something I don't really regret, to be honest. The reason why I took it was because I never dreamt of playing for Australia, let alone Fiji. And my goal was to play for Fiji, as I'm a Fijian. But then when Australia came, I was like, this is a dream I never had. So it was kind of like, yeah, I'll take it, because I never thought I was gonna get this. But then people say, yeah, do you regret playing? I'm like, nah, I don't regret playing for Australia. I'm still proud to call Australia my second home, and my kids are from there, my wife's from there, so I'm pretty grateful that I actually did.
Is it your impression that the Wallabies took a good step forward during the autumn? Because there's a lot coming up for them. There's a Lions tour. They're hosting the next World Cup. They'd had a really rough time. They had a rough time under Eddie Jones, results-wise and what have you. It looked as though there was the potential, because union's always a battle for profile, isn't it? In Australia with Aussie rules and the power of league and what have you, there was a potential for union to fall away quite badly there. And it seemed to me that they just took a really important step forward for themselves during the autumn.
Yeah, I agree with that. And obviously, they've had to fight quite a lot of battles, getting through that kind of stuff with Eddie Jones and everything coming out after that World Cup. And I think obviously they've just had a positive end of the season with them in that last tour they had, the last international games. And to be honest, I was proud of it. They actually took a good turn, and I think there's quite a lot of possibility, quite a lot of potential for them going through the future. And I'm actually looking forward to it. And I think now when you see Australians play, you're like, I'm gonna get down to watch this and try and cheer the boys on and stuff. Whereas before, to be honest, after they were going through that, you're like, oh, man, you already know what's gonna happen. But yeah, I'm actually surprised to see this Lions series tour, to be honest.
Yeah. I was going to ask this at the end of the episode, but while we're on the subject, who is your series winner? Given that we probably won't talk to you again before the Lions series. Anyway, who are you picking to win the series?
It's quite tough, because I never really knew personally how big the Lions team is when I came to Northampton. Because coming in from Super, you only hear of the Lions, but you never really, when I was in England, you have, Courtney Laws and, the likes of all those boys that, you play with when they're in the Lions, and you get involved, and you get to see, when you're in England, you get to see how the British Lions team is being picked, and it's quite massive, man. And I'm like, it's awesome. Like, it's, because being on that side of the world, you don't really, you just know of them, but you're not really fully detailed.
I mean, we spend the 4 years in between speculating over what the starting 15 will be.
Yeah, mate. To be honest, with how the game is going, it'll be tough. And Lions will have a good team. They'll have a good team, man. And how you have England, Scotland, and Ireland, obviously, and their pace is just, it's out the woodworks, mate. The Irish team, and I think they will have a really strong team, and Australia will try and defend home, being Australian. So it'll be tough, but I'm gonna have to back Aussies here, mate, and I'm gonna have to say the boys will get the job done.
2-1 or clean sweep?
I'm gonna have to go with probably a 2-1.
Yeah. I think a clean sweep would be a very audacious. Either way. I mean, I should say.
The last time I think I was in a clean sweep when England came over for their Australian tour, and they got a clean sweep, and I was in the Aussie team then, 2016.
2016, yeah.
You scored a try though, didn't you?
On the last game played in Sydney.
Yeah.
I was that was. I was like, yeah. And then I think Dylan Hartley captained the team over.
Yeah.
Excuse me. When I went to Northampton, I was like, Man, I'm gonna punch you in the face.
I remember you, yeah.
Careful, Dylan,
Yeah, just a man, Dylan, I would think.
Yeah, nah, it was just in my head. I didn't say it. It
You'll
was just
get
in my
some
head.
back, that's for sure.
Yeah. I was shaking his hand and like kind of going for the hug, but I was saying in my head. So yeah, it came out.
You're not the first person to think that with Dylan, I don't think.
Oh mate, no. Once I got to actually know him, he's a legend, man. He's a good guy. I think he's one of the best captains of the team I've been involved in, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he changed the game with England after Rugby World Cup 2015 as well. He was not the choice many people had at the top of their list, but then the second he took over, we went. Was it 16 games unbeaten, guys, from memory?
It might even be more than that. 17, 18.
Like
I mean, the
that.
much maligned Eddie
around
Jones and all that.
18, I think. Yeah.
People don't praise him at all these days, but that was a hell of a rabbit to pull from the hat.
Yeah,
Dylan as captain. I mean, that really was conjuring trick, that was. And he was a fantastic captain for those first 2 or 3 years with England, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I should say, by the way, a lot of outlets, podcasts, etc., are picking their Lions 15s now that the year started. We'll be doing ours after the Six Nations, which maybe is a slightly cheap way of sparing our blushes. But
why don't we do it after the Lions tour, and then we can all be right?
Yeah, we get it right then.
You'll still get it wrong, mate.
Will the players that are playing like in France, like say Owen Farrell, that will they still have the selection?
We think so. We think so. Yeah, they're at Jack Willis. Owen Farrell can get fit again.
I think we probably think. Well, I have Jack Willis as a starter personally. I picked my Lions team, or a version of it, on the Rugby Analyst back end of last year. I've got Jack Willis starting at 6. So yeah, we certainly hope so. And I think Courtney Lawes would be another one who some people's outside bet to be captain as well, which he's unlikely to be on the plane.
I think what year was that when they had the tour? I was still in Northampton. It was 2017, 18, 17, yeah. I think he was 3 months or 2 months into rehab when they started picking the Lions team, and they announced it. It was before training, and we were in the huddle as I think they were on the news announcing the team. And Courtney was just been spending 2 months just doing rehab. And then I was like, and then they called his name, and he was like, and I was like, he's just been doing rehab. And I was like, that's when you know this guy is just a quality player, man. Like I was like, but he definitely deserves it, man. He's a great bloke, man. He's got nothing bad to say about him, man. He's just a good bloke, to be honest, and a quality player.
Was his tackling as heavy as everyone said?
Sorry?
Was his tackling as heavy as everyone said?
From the sound of running in the same pitch when he makes the hit, I can hear it. But I can hear it. But
you never had to take one, did you?
I've never had to take. I think I did once at training. I think we had a Tuesday session. It was, you know how Tuesday session is, test match Tuesdays.
Yeah.
I think I caught the ball off the back and I just ran. I didn't know it was him. I just ran up the middle and I was like, I just felt like a kind of a stinger on the side of my arm, and I'm like, yeah, that's Courtney. And then I was like, looked, and he was like smiling at me. I was like, ah.
There's a bit of a theme developing here. Now, I don't want to give you any career advice because my level of rugby was a long way short of yours. But all this stuff about not knowing who's about to tackle you is really worrying me. I mean, there's a Japanese guys. There's Quagga Smith. There's Quagga Smith. Why don't you just look?
Nah, that's the thing. That's the thing about when I kind of go back to think about it. Or when as soon as I get to the bottom, really look and kind of like pick on someone or anything, I just see who's in front of me, and in my head it doesn't register who it is. Yeah. It doesn't register. Like even if I'm looking at and I know him, when I look at him, it's like I don't know you. And then obviously after the game, you'll be like laughing and like, oh yeah, that was you. And I'm like, but. That's just something I look back into my career, and I think I never really register about knowing people that's in front of me.
Okay.
And kind of I just run in that. If I pick a hole, I'm running in it, and if you're there, you're there, and kind of thing. So it's just something I didn't really register of knowing if someone's there.
Oh, it's interesting. I've never thought of it like that. I mean, it makes perfect sense actually. But it's I'm just worried about you.
I try and pick the halfbacks, but they tend to go behind the line.
Certainly when they see you get the ball, they do.
I'm like, Trying to look, I was like, he's not here.
Yeah, they got no ticker, those guys, have they?
It confuses Chewy because when he gets the ball and sees someone in front of him, he just runs the other way.
Yeah. It's called creating space. I'm sorry if this is unfashionable, but it's
He's quick. That's what he is. He's quick.
Yeah.
Wow.
Under those circumstances, I'm a whole lot quicker than I look.
That and the buffet.
Let's choose you both.
Yeah. Guys, from an England perspective, and while we're on the subject of wingers, the news has dropped today, and officially today, it was sort of unofficial yesterday, that Emmanuel Faye-Waboso is getting surgery on his shoulder. England's back three for the Six Nations, particularly with George Furbank missing the opening, is taking quite a different outlook to it or picture. Bren, Chris, who do you want to see sort of brought in?
Well, I mean, Freeman's going to play. You'd say Slyton would have every chance. So there's two Northampton guys for starters.
Hayden Murley's on fire.
Yeah.
Whether they look to go back to Freddie Stewart, I sort of doubt it really. I mean, you wonder whether they're going to go Finn Smith and Marcus Smith, 10 and 15.
Yeah,
Marcus Smith at 15.
Yeah, Marcus Smith at 15.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, they do that off the bench
interesting
already. So, but
George Hendy wouldn't be the worst if he's got over his shoulder from yesterday from Ollie Lawrence.
And all more, yeah.
What the well-known thespian?
I mean, look.
Smiler Lawrence.
Oh, that was unbelievable.
It was, wasn't it?
Unbelievable. Have you ever dived, Taqele?
Dived?
You ever taken a dive? Yeah. Just a bag of penalty, just check yourself on the floor and go, No. That's the answer I would have expected.
Yeah.
I mean, now that you're saying, it's probably not a bad idea to do it now, to be honest.
Well, that's his exact point. Yeah. But I think George Hendy would be in with a shout, but probably 6 months too early for him, really. But he's a hell of a player.
He's a hell of a player.
Who else is there? There are some good players around.
Fullback, we're struggling a little bit more with the, on the wing, we're in abundance. I mean, Gabriel Ibitoye has been the form wing of the past 2 years. Ollie Hassel-Collins.
But he's injured now, unfortunately.
Who, Hassel-Collins? Yeah, but he'll be all right, won't he?
Yeah, sorry, Ibitoye's injured, isn't he? He's got 6 weeks off now. So
I think the key to the whole back division is Freeman, isn't it? Because he could. I mean, he seems to me to be able to play anywhere.
Yeah,
anywhere from 11 to 15. I think he could play. I mean, it's difficult to pick guys out of position at test level or out of recent position at test level. That's a really big call. But I mean, he's got the size to get you through the traffic if that's what you need him to do. He does have a kicking game. He's played a fair bit in midfield, and he's done a bit at 15. I think, has he not?
He for Saints, yes. But he hasn't shown himself to be at test level. He's not shown himself to be the sort of potent try scorer that Faye-Waboso. I think he's got 3 in 16 or something like that, which given England's try scoring exploits, I suppose is on par.
I was going to say he's playing for England. Give the guy a break.
Yeah.
How's Freddie Stewart going? His form.
He's been going very well for Leicester. I think our sort of feeling on the podcast and generally the England public's feeling is that he's too slow on the turn to be a fullback. And he was brought in the autumn.
We want to see him at 12. And have done for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I think England, by the way, they might well pick him in Dublin. I think
they will.
I think we will
probably hard to overlook him, to be honest, Freddie Stewart.
Yeah.
And he'll be under the microscope because Ireland will make him turn. They won't do the big high bomb. They'll do the little low scudding kick pass into the corner, which he hates. So we'll see. If England got plenty of ball, he's definitely developing his attacking game, Freddie Stewart, without question. He's much more comfortable ball in hand. He makes more ground and he offloads at the right time now. So he's definitely improving his game in attack, no question.
But
he's been making some solid hits too in the Prem.
Yeah, he's a very strong. He's a really good player. I just want to see him at 12 because in Test rugby,
He went from undroppable to dropped in the space of 10 seconds. I mean, it was just really weird, wasn't it? What happened to him?
Who was it he absolutely smashed in the Harlequins game? There was someone he absolutely thumped, and I can't remember who it was now. I
I saw the highlight of it.
It may come back.
I don't know who exactly it was.
Maybe it was Marvel.
There's a lot of new players in the Prem since I've left now. So.
Yeah, it's a revolving door. But no, I think I'd be very excited to see a sort of Smith 10-15, and then you could put Slightholme, and I'd love to see Slightholme and Murley on the wings, and then Freeman at 13.
And Slightholme has got wheels, man. The wheels on that kid is
he's quicker than his dad was.
Man, he used to just run about like those max speed, like 10.2 for fun, man. I'm like, this guy surely is gonna get an England call up.
10.2, what?
On the yeah. So like those 10. Yeah.
I was just checking. That's not 100 meters.
No, he's a quick lad. He's a quick lad.
I also love those weighted kicks down the wing. Those kicks that he never overcooks them. Or almost never overcooked
them beautifully.
They just stop around the line. It's a very clever trick he's got.
I think it's because he can't kick for shit, but he just makes it look like
okay.
He just makes and he would laugh if you hear me say this, but he can't kick for shit, but his speed just kind of makes it look good. You know what I mean? That's how quick he is.
Me trying to be nice to him.
Obviously, if he hears this, he's gonna send me a message. It's fine.
Oh god, it's a mystery.
He's like, man. I was happy. As soon as I saw him play his debut for England, man, I sent him a message. I was like, "Fuck, man, it was due to happen, man. I'm so proud of him, man. He's done really well."
Yeah, I mean, Jerry Guscott for the Rugby Paper has been singing his praises in the past week or two in his column, and saying that the Six Nations, particularly with Faye Wilboso now, even more relevant. Six Nations is Slightholme's year to really sort of announce himself.
I think he starts for sure.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely starting.
That's good. Yeah,
100%. I suppose the only other name I want to mention from the weekend, and we haven't spoken about the bonkers game that was Bath Saints, which we probably do need to speak about. But do we think, is there a back row that Tom Willis and Ben Earl can be a part of for England as well as Saracens?
Well, yes, but it has to be Tom Willis at 8. So, I mean, I think that is now nailed down. And I think in my mind, it has been for a couple of months. I'm astonished he didn't get the start, even in the squad in the autumn. But, in the last 9 months, he's seen off Billy at Saracens and he's seen off Ben Earl. So, I mean, that sends its own message. Ben Earl is now being deployed as a flanker by Saracens, and he's a very good flanker. And I thought there was some signs of return to top form at the weekend. His footwork was back and his little half breaks. When he's buzzing, he's a terrific bloke going forward, Ben Earl. But selection-wise, that's hellish. You've got two Currys both playing well. You've got Sam Underhill playing well. You've got Ben Earl playing well. You've got Cullen himself, who made a good impression last season. But you've got to get it right. And Alex Dombrand to be in the squad. You've got so many options, but you've got to get that back row selection right. And you start from Tom Willis and you work out.
Yeah. We're blessed.
What's the story with the captain? What's the story with the captaincy then, chaps? I mean, there's a lot of traffic now in the press to say that Jamie George is going to get the nudge as captain, get the push.
On what grounds? Because is he no longer guaranteed a start?
Well, I don't know, but if they were going to pick Maro Itoje instead, I mean, what happened at the weekend is hilarious, isn't it? I mean, Maro was captain, who got on the referee's nerves to such a fantastic extent that the referee turned around to Jamie George and said, "If that man speaks to me like that again, I'm sending him off."
Yes.
So
it's and he's getting a lot of yellow cards, Maro. And in one way, I quite like that because it means he's playing on the edge, and he's a better player when he's on the edge. But you don't want your skipper always in yellow card trouble.
Yeah. No, I think you guys have your captain and co-captain there.
Well, it's Owen Farrell. It'll be Owen Farrell revisited. England will be the most annoying side of referee in history. I don't know. I don't see what Jamie George has done wrong. Actually,
No, I hadn't heard that. I'd stick with him all the way. He gets on well with refs.
Yeah.
Still playing pretty well from what I can see.
Do you get on well with refs, Taqele?
Mate, you know, on the wing, man, you hardly deal with them. I just deal with the linesman. I just try and have a chat with a touchy. I was trying to put my 2 cents with a touchy.
When you're not getting many touches, you just have a little.
I'm just looking at him. I was like, "Hey, what are we offside? What are you doing, man?"
I think let's park the captaincy debate for another week or two, just as we approach the Six Nations. Like I say, Tom Willis, he's top 10 for defenders beaten. He's top of that list. He's the only forward in that list. He's the only forward in the top 10 for meters made, and he's 7th. So look, I think the clamours are getting bigger and bigger. Guys, Taqele, I don't suppose you found time to watch Northampton Bath, but do watch the highlights if you haven't, because it was nuts.
I just seen a try scored by I think there was a George Hendy went down the sideline, went to Hutches, and Hutches offloaded back to someone, I think. But I just saw the point, and I'm like, that probably must have been a tough game.
A hell of a game. I mean, for me, the game of the season. Bren, Chris, I don't know if you agree, game of the season for me.
Yeah, I think it was, because there's been higher scoring matches and similar score lines, but that was full on, absolutely full on. They weren't scoring tries because it was a loose game, although it was a fluent game, but they were both full on. Had that slightly unreal feel when the Saints got out the blocks very, very quickly, and you did wonder if Bath maybe weren't going to turn up, and then suddenly they hit the green button, and it was absolutely terrific Sunday afternoon entertainment. And we had the theatricals as well. The Sir Lawrence Olivier Award.
Well, indeed. I'm going to sound like a really grumpy old sod here, but I still put up short with just the numbers of tries being scored. I don't really like 6 tries plays 7 or something like that. I'm too old. I guess I'm too old fashioned. And actually, I mean, I've got to write a piece about it at the weekend, but it is true to say that when you get into knockout rugby, when you get into finals, all that goes away.
Yeah.
Even now, all that goes away. You know, World Cup finals, there haven't been 2 tries. The average is under 2 tries a final over the whole stretch of World Cup. So it just seems to me, I'm just a little bit suspicious. I want to know what defence coaches do for a living these days. What do they do?
Well, how does Sale go from nilling Bristol away to then getting? How many did they concede at the weekend? I mean, that's a bit bonkers, isn't it?
Well, Bristol were pretty dumb that night. I mean, the big thing with them, and they played some extraordinary rugby, and that first half against Leicester was unbelievable. I mean, it was an astonishing performance, but they don't have a plan B. When things aren't sticking, or when sides are going to say, well, you're not doing that to us, and we'll stick it up the jumper just a little bit more than the lot last week did, they don't have an answer. Yeah. At the moment, they don't have. Whether that's because they're incapable of bringing an answer to the question, or whether they just don't want to, and they're completely signed up to this thing, and this is how they're going to play, I don't know.
And at least AJ McGinty, when he's playing, he's a bit more subtle, and he does change the pace a little bit. And that is a big loss for them. You know, he might not be the biggest name in the Premiership, but AJ, there's very few players who are more important to their team than AJ McGinty at Bristol.
Absolutely right.
Taqele, did you miss being a part of the Prem and sort of?
I can say, I definitely miss it. I definitely miss it.
I tell you, it's an entertaining watch. I mean, the first half was genuinely try ping pong for a little while. So do watch that game back. And Finn Smith, who I suspect, I'm just trying to do the maths in my head, you perceived. I suspect he hadn't quite come through the ranks until you'd left Northampton. He's been in the academy, but
that was the Worcester fallout, wasn't it?
Well, he arrived from Worcester, didn't he?
Finn sorry, yeah. Of course,
when Worcester went pop.
Yeah.
But no, Taqele, what's your plan for the year? How are you sort of looking ahead to things, taking each day as it comes?
Nah, man. For me, just getting through, this year, just trying to enjoy it. Like I said, don't know when I'm gonna actually hang the boots up for me. So like I said, I'm taking it week by week, day by day here, and just trying to enjoy, find little things to try and enjoy my rugby, enjoy the feeling of going to a changing room, seeing the boys again. Because like you all know, rugby is not a permanent thing, and at the end of the day, you're going to have to leave the game. And for me, I'm just trying to just try and enjoy every little thing that I can now.
Don't hang your boots up until you put Courtney Laws on his ass.
Sorry.
Don't hang your boots up until you put Courtney Laws on his ass. So you get promoted this year, and you can have a bit of a bash it breathe.
Oh man, yeah. If we do make, hopefully we do have a good run this half of the season. We before Christmas we came second. We had a goal as a team to try and finish in the top 4. But here is quite good, as you have 3 games and you have a week off, kind of blocks. Going into in the season, so you have that week off every 3 games, so which is good. Kind of gives a bit of. I was like, mate, if I knew this, I would have come here.
You civilise that, in fairness.
I'm like,
I spent my career anywhere else.
Hey, I'm like, where was this? How come no one told me about this?
Knock that down to 2 and you can play until you're 40.
Hey, to be honest, I'm like, even when I say in the Prem, like the amount of games that the Prems have is, mate, I never really thought how big the season is back there since I've left Super, and a lot of the boys have been asking, like a lot of people ask about the difference, and I'm like, man, it's just the amount of games that Premiership play, and you only have 5 weeks off and you're back into preseason. Where in Super, like it took me about 4 years to get 50 with the Waratahs, and where here you're like, after my second season, I already got 50 for Saints, and I'm like, what the hell?
I mean, how many? I know he's had 20 seasons, but Danny Care's played nearly 400 games for Quins, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he's just signed for another season now. Do you see that today?
I thought he's retired.
No, so did I. No, I thought he was going to go to the TNT at the end of the. But he's signed up for another year.
Yeah, nuts.
I know he doesn't.
Fair play to him.
Yeah, I suppose it's a bit easier when you're hiding behind the front line, isn't it?
Yeah, you said it.
Taqele, it's great to see that you're still playing and the body's holding up. I wish we could keep a slightly closer eye on what you're doing in France, but we certainly will keep a distant eye and hope to see you in Pro D next year.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. First, thank you very much for having me, man. It's a pleasure talking to you all and get a bit of laugh and getting to share the rugby brains with you great people. And yeah, thank you very much for the well wishes. And hopefully we get to Pro D2 and hopefully I can come back into that level again. But we'll see, eh?
Good luck with it, and thanks for dropping in.
Have a great.
It was really good fun. Thank you.
Take care.
Appreciate it. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. God bless.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this week's edition of the Rugby Paper Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on whichever podcast platform you use and recommend the show to your friends. The Rugby Paper is available to buy every Sunday, and to make sure you don't miss it, subscribe through our print, digital and online options at therugbypaper.co.uk/subscriptions. That's therugbypaper.co.uk/subscriptions to get all our content for as little as 14p per day.